lot of balancing act that Budget 2018 needs to do. But let's actually set the macroeconomic context and how this is different from the previous budgets of the Modi Sarkar. And it's over to you, Sandeep, for that.
Thanks, guys. Before we dive into our mega budget coverage, let's set the context with the 10 key variables that are probably going to make a lot of difference to Budget 2018. As always, the spotlight is on the economy, GDP growth. That's the one number that the entire nation has its eyes fixated on. And we've seen a slowdown on account of GST and demonetization. So the budget needs to do whatever it can to bring that number up from 6.5 to 6.75% for this year to about 7.5, 7.75, maybe even 8% going into election 2019. The theme has to be the rural sector. I think it's a no-brainer that the budget will put the spotlight on the agrarian stress, the agrarian distress, and 4 years of Modi government has seen a growth of just under 2% in the rural sector. So the budget has to put the spotlight on the farmer. It has to be a budget for Bharat. Equally challenging will be to revive investment, because over the last 6 years we've seen the investment trend decline. And the government has to be able to kickstart the private investment cycle, which in turn will lead to job creation. So that's going to be a big challenge really for the government to do whatever it takes to kickstart private investment in the economy. Of course, the other number that everyone obsesses over is the fiscal deficit number. That chart is not bad. It tells you that we've been on a path of fiscal consolidation. But the key thing is going to be, will we meet the 3.2% target for this year? And more importantly, will we stick to the 3% target for next year? We have to wait for the finance minister's speech to find out. Current account deficit is now turning out to be a bit of a worry, because from a wonderful situation last year on account of rising crude oil imports and gold imports, it's now getting into a figure which the government may not be very comfortable about. We spoke about crude oil imports, and that's a big variable, a huge risk to the economy. The chart probably doesn't do justice to the extent of pain this one factor is going to cause, and how dramatically it's changed from being a tailwind to a headwind. Indian basket at $53, $58 a barrel. But if you were to look at the ticker, it will tell you that Brent is now hovering close to that $70 a barrel mark. And that's a number that the finance minister is not going to be comfortable with. Inflation, what does this do? It obviously increases inflationary pressures in the system. Again, that chart tells you only 3.3%, but that's from April to December. If you look at the CPI reading for the last month, it was well over 5%. So that means it's now not quite in the comfort zone of the central bank. So that's, again, an important headwind, an important factor that will drive the policy making and the budget making as well. Bond yields, again, now they've risen quite sharply over the last year to this year, going into budget 2017 from 6.43% going into budget 2017. Right now it's 7.25%, largely on account of what the government will do on the fisc. So there's nervousness in the bond markets. Rupee, let's look at the currency from last year to this year. Again, the currency has strengthened quite considerably from 67.47 to the dollar, right now at 63.79. So that's hurting exporters, but the currency has strengthened over the last 1 year. Finally, equity markets, which have been on a tear over the last 1 year. So from last budget to this budget, Nifty has returned 37%. The mid-cap index has returned 46%. Big question then, will the finance minister take a chance with the sentiment of the market and introduce the long-term capital gains tax? That's anybody's guess, but these are the 10 variables that are going to set the context for Budget 2018.